Line 256-576-4977. Now, here's D Squared.
Welcome, everyone, to another week of the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared on Blitz Sports Radio. Always love talking recruiting with everybody here on the Recruiting Blitz, and it's always great conversation. Never stops. We've said that repeatedly. Recruiting always rolling on, no doubt about that. And we are going to talk some Auburn recruiting today with Jason Caldwell later in this hour. Jason Caldwell, you know, for 20-plus years, I believe it's 22 years now that he's covered the Auburn Tigers for inside the Auburn Tigers. He and Mark Murphy, two class individuals. And they're also now part of the umbrella of Auburn 24/7, Auburn Undercover. We're going to talk some Auburn Tigers with him. He gets a lot of road time on Friday nights, goes to see a lot of players. You know, we had him on Talking Ball a couple weeks ago, and he talked about going to watch Hillcrest Evergreen and finding Cam Riley when he was a young underclassman. And Cam is now going to be a huge part of this Auburn defense coming up this year. Could he be the next, Carlos Dansby, perhaps? I mean, that comparison has been made. But we're going to talk some Auburn. They got a huge commitment from DeQuavius Sori from Chipley, Florida. Explosive wide receiver. Guy's probably a little under the radar. That looked like he was committed to Georgia. His brother plays there, and he decommitted. And then it looked like for a while he would end up with Billy Napier in Florida. But Ike Hilliard, the former Gator, and a guy that I think has been a great addition to this Auburn coaching staff since coming over from the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL, has made quite an impact. And I think he helped turn the recruitment for this young man. And Auburn needs explosive offensive players like this. They need to continue to build their recruiting class, but it's been a slow one. And they have not, like a lot of these schools. You'll see Alabama with 21 commitments. You'll see Ohio State. I mean, you'll see a lot of these top, classes. 17 for Miami, for example, 18 for Georgia. They'll have most of the hay in the barn already. 20 for Ohio State, but Auburn does not. It's been a slow build for the Auburn Tigers. No doubt about that. And a lot of it has to do with the offseason. We had more of that news and fallout coming from this past week, too, because the weekend, anyway, with Alan Green, the now former AD at Auburn. He will be out with the Auburn Tigers. And you could see this coming, for the last couple of years. I think Alan Green's been looking for another job. Trying to move on. I don't think he was a great fit in Auburn as the athletic director. There were some issues with the way he ran the department, with the finances and things of that nature. Some cuts that he made that some coaches in that athletic department weren't happy about. And then he hired Brian Harsin, which rubbed some people the wrong way. Now, Harsin still may succeed at Auburn, and that is going to be a huge story for Auburn athletics this year. Now that the guy that hired him and the school president that okayed it are both gone, it really ratchets the pressure up on Brian Harsin to win. Even more important for him to get at least 8 wins this year to come back for a year 3 at Auburn. Because we've already seen with Chad Morris and him being a bad fit at Arkansas, and he was horrific. He was a guy that he was actually recruiting well, recruiting top 20 classes, but he was terrible. He was not good at all. And he got fired after 2 years. So we've seen that happen already in the SEC. We saw it almost happen after year 1 with Harsin. I didn't agree with that logic, but again, they're going to have to win here. And now Auburn has named T.J. Finley as their starting quarterback. So there you go. If T.J. Finley is QB1, is he going to be able to do the job? I think really when you look at this Auburn football team, I really like their defense. I think it's an underrated group. I think it's a top 10 unit top 5 unit in the SEC, which means you're talking about top 15 probably nationally. I think it has a chance to be really good, at least top 20. Jeff Smetting taking over as the DC, a guy that Brian Harsin's much more comfortable with than Derek Mason. They got some talent there. Owen Papo healthy now. Cam Riley at linebacker. Wesley Steiner. They've got a D-line that I think is underrated. With Wooten, who is a really good player, have made a lot of plays for them last year. The edge guys, Iku Leota and Derek Hall, are very good pass rushers. So Marcus Harris along that D-line. They've got some pieces there at Auburn. Is Jason Jones from Calera via Oregon going to be able to make an impact at the nose spot? And then the corners, they've Nehemiah Pritchett, Jalen Simpson. We'll see. I think this Auburn defense has a chance to, be really, really good. No question about it, especially if the secondary comes along. They also lost Smoke Monday, but they've, added some big-time pieces there as well. And I think they feel good, about the additions via the transfer portal and just some of the younger players that are coming up and developing. So I think the Auburn defense has a chance to be special, and, we will definitely be monitoring that closely because defensively, I think is really going to be the identity of this Auburn team. They talk about offensively, and Harson's an offensive guy, but I really think defensively is where we're going to see this Auburn team defined, and I'm really fascinated to see really how it goes overall. And I just think when you look at Auburn and, the way they've, developed this defense, I think they've got a chance to be special. I think they really finished strong last year defensively. And I think, as we said, Colby Wooden along that DL, Marcus Harris, Jason Jones, really, quality, defensive lineman. And then the safety to watch is Caden Bridges, a rising sophomore. And then don't forget Donovan Kaufman, who came with Derek Mason, didn't leave and go to Oklahoma State and follow him again. But Donovan Kaufman, safety from Vanderbilt that came in last year, he should be much more comfortable in his second year with the Auburn Tigers. And I just think this defense overall, with Smetting, knowing what Harsin wants, and having an entire offseason, having Owen Papo healthy. 2 years ago, he had 93 tackles when he was healthy, and he wasn't healthy for the majority of last season. I think, this Auburn defense is going to be good. I think Derek Hall is probably my favorite player on the defense. The edge guy, I would not be shocked if he had 11 or 12 sacks this year for the Tigers. And so I just really think that this defense is going to lead the way for them. But the story is going to be the QB. T.J. Finley, has been up and down. He was up and down last year behind Bo Nix. He has beaten out Robbie Ashford. Robbie, of course, is the transfer from Oregon via Hoover. Not the greatest passer in the world, but he's kind of like a Mike Wright at Vanderbilt. He's a very good athlete. They could run specialty packages with him. The disappointment has been Zach Calzada, but in his defense, he was hurt. He did not go through spring ball, and so he's been a little slow picking up this new system. It'll be interesting to see how much leeway Finley's given, because I think he had more turnovers, but he also got more reps than any quarterback in fall camp. So can he play the position consistently enough? I know there's been a ton of talk about the wide receiver core for Auburn. Is Devarius Johnson finally going to step up? Can Coy Moore come in from Vanderbilt? I got Vanderbilt in my brain because of the 63-10 win over Hawaii. But can he come in from LSU and make an impact at the wide receiver spot? Right now, he's not first team. Malcolm Johnson is the speedster. I think he had a good fall camp for Auburn. Javarius Johnson, I think, is going to start the first game. I know he's had to compete. Camden Brown, the freshman, is definitely going to get some reps for Auburn. Going to be interesting, but the quarterback is the most important position in all of college football now. Auburn's still got to fill that quarterback, spot in this 2023 recruiting class. We'll talk about that with Jason Caldwell because, again, there's no one to me that's more knowledgeable than Jason when it comes to Auburn, and I mean the entirety of the whole situation. The day-to-day, status of that program and the recruiting aspect, because he and Mark, especially Jason, though, does an outstanding job of getting on the road and covering the Auburn recruiting targets. He's extremely well versed in what they're looking for in their recruiting board. As we said, 20 plus years. Actually, now I should update it. 23rd year already for the Sylacauga native and Sylacauga High School graduate Jason Caldwell. who is covering the Auburn Tigers. Such a classy guy, and we're going to enjoy. We've had him many, many times since I've been 7 years with ESPN 97.7 The Zone and built Talking Ball. But now that we're in our 5th week of the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared here on Blitz Sports Radio, it'll be his first appearance with us on the Blitz. But he does a great job covering Auburn, and I always enjoy picking his brain because he'll let you know, give you there'll be some strong opinions, and he'll also have intimate knowledge of what he thinks Auburn needs to do from a recruiting standpoint going forward. Offensive line is going to be a huge story because they're losing some tackles. Our good friend Austin Troxell from Madison Academy is going into his COVID year, his last year, 6th one with Auburn, overcoming the 3 ACL injuries. Certainly, he's going to have to stay healthy. Certainly, Killian Zaire, I think, going to be the left tackle. He's a junior college player that's had injury problems of his own, but he seems to be healthy enough. You got Brandon Council. He's a senior. Nick Brahms, sad story for him because it doesn't sound like his knees are responding. Is Tate Johnson going to have to take over that center spot full time? But Auburn needs to have a really good recruiting class up front along the O-line. There's no doubt about that. And offensive tackle is going to be a huge story, no question. And so, Alec Jackson's also, I believe, a senior, but he's a backup tackle right now. So Auburn is going to definitely have to fill some holes along that O-line, no question about that. And so we're going to talk to Jason about that. We're going to talk about some of the guys they've already got committed, like a Jeremiah Cobb, who's off to a very good start, for his senior year in Montgomery. He committed to Auburn early, and I think everybody was excited about his commitment. Carmelo English from Central of Phoenix City, that's off to a very fine start. And again, of course, Jeremiah from Montgomery Catholic, a very good small school program, private school program in Montgomery. And like we said, we'll ask him about his opinion on DeQuavius Sorey, what kind of wide receiver is Auburn getting. And then, of course, they got the sleeper defensive back prospect. He's playing linebacker at Lochapoka, but J.C. Hart, extremely fast young man. And then Wilkie Denard from, as we said, an edge player, their first edge commit from Fort Pierce before they flipped Ashley Williams from Zachary, Louisiana. So Ashley flipped from Nebraska. Probably glad he did after what we saw out of them on their opening weekend. But so 8 pieces of the puzzle right now for Auburn, but they're going to sign 25 players at least, you would think. They need to. They need to load up on offensive and defensive linemen. They need to load up on edge prospects. They have 2 committed. Probably want to try to get 2 more. One of them will be Quay Rusaw, Carver Montgomery won this past Friday night. Quay was wearing an Auburn towel, so Auburn definitely would love to get James Smith and Quay Rusaw. There's no question about that. Jimmy Brumbaugh, former Auburn standout along that defensive line, has taken over the D-line room for Brian Harsin after Nick Easton had a 1 year with them. Nick Easton coming over from the NFL and the Cincinnati Bengals last year, but then going back to his alma mater to work for Dabo Swinney at Clemson. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this Auburn recruiting class fills out. And this 5-game homestand at Jordan-Hare Stadium for Auburn to start the season. I've reiterated it on Talking Ball and here on the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio with D Squared, that they have to start fast and they need to win 4 out of 5 or all 5 of these, which means if you win 5, you beat Penn State at home, which will be electric, and then you beat LSU and Brian Kelly in his initial trip to Jordan-Hare Stadium and his first taste of this rivalry. That were Auburn last year, Bo Nix, probably his brightest moment. Bo Nix now probably going to be the starting quarterback at Oregon. He transferred after graduating from Auburn, but he quarterbacked that comeback win in Baton Rouge. That was one of the nails in the coffin for Ed Ogeron to end that long losing streak since '99 for Auburn. Now they'll try to win 2 in a row. Brian Harsin going to try to go 2-0 against LSU. That's going to be a huge game as well within the SEC. Now they'll give the sandwich game in between, Missouri at home. That's going to be big for Auburn too. They certainly need to handle that game, but I think Auburn is, I sense more oneness. I sense more guys being on the same page. I think Brian Harsin's very comfortable with where this team is, but it comes down to being healthy and the Jimmies and the Joes and the quarterback play. And Harsin is a quarterback guy, former college quarterback at Boise State. former offensive coordinator. So this is going to be his baby. I know Eric Kiesau is now the offensive coordinator. He was with him at Boise State. But ultimately, it's going to fall at the feet of Harsin, how these quarterbacks play, how this offense looks, what kind of physicality they play with. And, we're going to see if Tank Bigsby can finally be that 1,400-yard rusher. And if he is, I think this Auburn team is sneaky good. I think they're going to be 8-4 and go to a solid bowl game, maybe have a chance to win 9 after the bowl. I think they're going to be good. I don't think they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, but I think they can be a pain in the rear end. I certainly didn't pick them last in the SEC in Atlanta. I know a lot of people have been kind of jumping on that bandwagon. I got to believe this roster is more talented than that. I know they had some really tough luck at the end of last year, but I still thought they looked like a solid football team, could have easily had a winning record if a bounce or two go their way. And I got to believe that they're going to be pretty good. And now it's just going to depend how many games they win and if he can impress the new athletic director. And we'll ask, certainly Jason Caldwell about that. The timeline with the AD. When do we think an athletic director is going to be in place at Auburn? We talked to Brian Matthews about that at University Kia over on Talking Ball on Saturday. He felt like there needed to be one in place in a month to evaluate this football program, evaluate Brian Harsin. And certainly it's interesting. That timeline would be at the end of pretty much that 5-game homestand for the Tigers when they start their season, 5 straight games at Jordan-Hare, and see if they're a contender or a pretender. I personally, I don't think they're going to contend for the SEC championship, but I think they're going to be better than they were a year ago. They were 6-7, and I think they can improve by at least 3 games, just because I think more players are bought into what Harsin's doing. And I think getting Tank Bigsby back out of the transfer portal was big. Same way with Javarius Johnson. That shows that they started to believe in what the coaches were selling. And now Auburn didn't make a ton of transfer portal additions. They've got a lot of guys back, though. And if, Cam Riley can make that jump to a frontline SEC linebacker, and if, Jason Jones can one of those transfer portal additions can make an impact along that D-line, I think Auburn can be pretty solid. No question about it. Now, we're going to know a lot about them when Penn State comes to Jordan-Hare. James Franklin and crew won a close one in Happy Valley last year. And then I picked Brian Kelly and LSU to be sneaky good and finish second in the West. If that happens, then that means that, to me, they're going to have to win at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And I picked them to win that game. But I think it's a winnable game for Auburn as well. So it's going to be some interesting storylines to follow, no doubt about it. But we're going to go on a break here on the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. When we come back, Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers to talk some Tigers, some recruiting, and just a bunch of subjects to cover, but especially this recruiting class, the future of Brian Harsin, this quarterback race with TJ Finley. Going to talk some Auburn with Jason Caldwell next.
This is Wes Neighbors with Philip with Eagle Insulation, and we have an announcement to make.
Yes, Wes, we are now Eagle Masonry and Insulation. Still a place to call for your installation needs, but now we offer masonry services.
What kind of masonry projects can you handle?
Wes, no job is too big, no job is too small. We can do renovations, new construction, outdoor fireplaces, fire pits, brick landscape borders.
Well, when you came out to my house, you did both the insulation and masonry at the same time. You guys did rock for me, you did brick for me, and you insulated my house. That's usually done at the same time that you're building a house.
Absolutely. It really capitalizes on 2 services you need at the same time, and you can get one company to handle both of those.
Philip with Eagle Insulation will come out, do your installation. He'll do your masonry. They do a great job. They guarantee your work. Check out more online at insulatedwitheagle.com and schedule your free examination today. 256-755-1556.
Thanks, Wes.
Do you have discomfort in your legs? Varicose veins can affect not only how your legs look, but how they feel. Symptoms of varicose veins include pain, swelling, aching, heaviness, and fatigue. Dr. Tracy Lowry of Best Vein Care of Huntsville can diagnose and treat your varicose veins with the latest minimally invasive techniques. Diagnosis and treatment is covered by most insurances. Call 256-715-7151 to schedule your free screening. Go to bestveincarehuntsville.com.
Here's Bobby White from Woody Anderson Ford on their service department.
President's Award winner 2 years in a row. That's only given to the top 10% of Ford dealers in customer satisfaction. So we're very proud of the service department. And our body shop. If you happen to get into an accident, which not a lot of people just want to go down and see a body shop, if you get into an accident, award-winning body shop. We have state-of-the-art paint booths back there. They're waterborne paints that we use, friendly for the environment. We've got our production system, the way things are in and out. We have the fastest cycle rate in town of getting your vehicle in, getting your vehicle out, and assured that it's fixed right. We take pictures before it's wrecked, and not only after, but we take it as we're putting the parts on. All done to above industry standards. So I'm proud of our body shop too. Don't forget our parts department. So if you happen to need parts, performance parts, or just parts if you're a weekend mechanic.
Woody Anderson Ford, located at the corner of Jordan and Sparkman, as well as Hughes Road and Madison. You can also check out the great deals at WoodyAndersonFord.com.
TOC Sports has been there for you. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what does that mean? It means for more than 20 years, Alabama's largest orthopedic group has been there providing coverage and care to more schools and student athletes in the Tennessee Valley than any other group. It means whether you are the star football player, the all-region volleyball ace, or someone who hurt their knee in a weekend pickup basketball game, TOC Sports physicians are proud to have the opportunity to care for all your orthopedic needs. It means for parents, coaches, athletes, desk jockeys, or even weekend warriors, TOC Sports physicians continue to meet and exceed the orthopedic and sports medicine needs of our community. But most importantly, during these challenging times, we're here for you now and will continue to be here. So as long as there are players on the field, games to be played, and contests to be won, the orthopedic specialists from TOC Sports will be ready to help. We don't know what the future holds, but you can count on the TOC Sports team to stay committed to you so you can stay in the game. Call 256-539-2728 today and ask to see a TOC Sports physician. Check them out online, also Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Blitz, Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared, Drew DeArmond. We bring you recruiting conversation 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We're in week 5 already with our show, and this will be the first time for our next guest to be on this program. He's certainly been a big part of Talking Ball on ESPN 97.7 The Zone, but he's going to be a big part of the Recruiting Blitz as well, because there's no one I respect more when it comes to covering recruiting and covering the Auburn Tigers, getting on the road, getting a lot of face time with coaches and players. He's done this for 23 years already. He's been in this business for a long time, he and Mark Murphy. And our next guest is Jason Caldwell, and he's joining us now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Jason, thank you for taking the time this morning. How are you?
I'm good, Drew. How about you?
Doing good, man. No doubt about it. Hey, man, your pick for Mr. Football is off to a heck of a start. Jeremiah Cobb, Montgomery Catholic, Auburn commitment, a guy that's been super productive on a really good small school, high school program. Someone that Cadillac Williams targeted early in this process. He was someone that believed in the vision of this Auburn coaching staff and looks to be a really good fit for this Auburn program. Really good first couple of weeks for him.
Yeah, he's a dynamic running back. He really is. When you look at him, my player comparison when he committed a few months back was kid that played at North Carolina and was at Tennessee before that, and Ty Chandler.
Yes.
And so, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, not 230, but really physical. And that's what I see from, you look at Jeremiah Cobb, but, he's the definition of a home run hitter. Like, he's a guy that can take it the distance, really good vision. He's just a good player. He's going to put up big numbers because, they got a really good football team again. And he's a guy that can explode and have big plays. And so, he really hasn't played much of the second half of either one of their first 2 games. And I think he's got 400 yards rushing, another 75, 80 yards receiving, and like 6 total touchdowns or something like that. So, he's going to have a big year.
No question about it. And then I was looking at some highlights, this weekend on Twitter. He looked like he was having a big game, and, of course, it was the night, and earlier in the day he committed to Auburn. And I've been sneaky impressed, and I only mean that because he's not been in the college game until now. But I think the addition of Ike Hilliard hadn't got enough pub for what Brian Harsin did, hiring him from the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all know how good he was at Florida for Steve Spurrier, and then he played in the NFL for a long time. But he really seems to, the intel I get from the way he's been able to reach these Auburn receivers, and then the way he turned the recruitment of DeQuavius Story, who has a brother at Georgia, who had been committed to there and decommitted, and then looked like he was going to go to Florida, but then Auburn turns this recruitment and quietly did it behind the scenes with Ike Hilliard. This young man, I watched him explode down the sidelines on Friday night. His ranking is not high yet, but I think it'll be higher. I think he'll be a solid 4-star player. But to me, he looks like he'll bring some explosiveness that Auburn's been looking for to their wide receiver room.
Yeah, he is. Talented athlete, small school football, and, I talked to Ike Hilliard for a second Saturday because, against that team, that's what he's supposed to do. And, Ike Hilliard doesn't pull any punches. And, a guy that did it, he coached it at the highest level in the NFL. It's funny to listen to the current Auburn players talk about him. Say, look, he never raised his voice. He doesn't have to. He just tells you, hey, this is what you got to do. This is how you do it. This is what I'm looking for. And that's it. And it's pretty straightforward when he's talking about DeQuavius Story a little bit. That's what he's supposed to do. But when you look at, him, I kind of reminds me a little bit of Courtney Taylor. When you look at him and you go,
interesting comparison.
Not the fastest guy, played small school football, but extremely talented athlete, and a guy that I think as he gets used to the college game and kind of the finer points of the game, I think he's going to be a real good player.
Well, and Courtney Taylor brought a lot of toughness to the wide receiver
Correct.
room at Auburn, and that they could definitely use that, no question about that. And I really like Ashley Williams, the kid they flipped from Nebraska. I had his coach on the Recruiting Blitz a couple weeks ago, Jason, David Brewerton. He spoke really highly of the young man and what he'd been able to do. Certainly, that's a very good program at Zachary in the 5A classification. They've won state championships, won 4, I think, in 8 years under Coach Brewerton's tutelage. And I know that with Wilkie Denard and Ashley, and they'd like to get Quay Russaw, the edge position is one of utmost importance because my favorite guy on this Auburn team this year, Derek Hall, he will be gone to the NFL. Leota could easily go, so the edge spot is one of a big-time need for Auburn.
Yeah, it's the edge spot and offensive line. Those are the two areas you look at, and off to a pretty good start when you start talking about the edge position under Rob Bellantoni. He's done a good job recruiting, and you're right, Quay Russaw sitting there, obviously a guy that's a massive target for just about everybody in this country. Guy that I got to watch on Friday night, and you can see the explosiveness in his game. Thursday night, but
right.
Yeah, I think good job so far. I agree. I like Ashley Williams. I think a lot of upside for a guy like him. He's long, athletic. Wilkie Denard probably going to wind up maybe being more of a Colby Wooden type guy before it's over with. Kind of that that bigger body end before he's done. But he can rush the passer. So they've held themselves already. Obviously, you'd like to add more because you could be sitting there with really just Dylan Brooks at that position as a true edge, after this season. You brought in Marcus Bragg. He's a grad student from West Kentucky. You could lose your 3 veteran guys. And I would say right now a good chance that all 3 of those guys would be gone. And so if you do that, then you've got to have immediate help and some guys that are ready to go right away.
Well, and I know you and I watched Dylan Brooks when they won a state championship at Handley, and we thought he might end up even being a tight end. He was a jumbo athlete, no doubt about that. What kind of physical progress has he made at Auburn, and is he a guy after this year, because I believe he redshirted a year ago, is he going to be someone in your mind that's going to be ready physically to step into one of those spots with playing time available? Certainly he'll play as a backup this year, but from the physical progress he's made, where do you see him right now?
Yeah, I think he's taken some steps. Some of he got sick right as soon as camp started and lost like 15 pounds in like a week. And so he's had to kind of, it's really the same thing that happened to Colby Wooden when he was a freshman. And it's hard to catch up with that. So he's working to catch up to that a little bit. Still got to develop. His frame will allow him to play bigger than a lot of edge guys do. He's probably 235 right now, but he's got a longer frame than Derek Hall, who's 255. And so you think about where he's got to go. I think he's got to be 250 at a minimum on his frame to be able to withstand, setting the edge in the run game, doing some of those things. So there's still a ways to go from him. athletic. He's got that, but now it's can you translate that to the college game? Because it's a different world. It is, and the physicality that's required to play that position, it's more than just rushing the passer, and I think that's going to be the next step for him.
Well, and then you talk about Wilkie Denard. I agree with you. I think he's going to end up being probably with his hand in the dirt, a defensive end. But we've seen Colby Wooten has turned into a great player for Auburn. Really the bell cow of their defensive line, no doubt about that. But as far as to switch gears to the offensive line, Auburn, they're definitely going to have a huge need at tackle. They've got Braden Joyner committed. He looks to me like a future center for Auburn at Auburn High School, playing for the great Keith Etheridge. But it also looks like Auburn taking a look at potentially some junior college offensive linemen, and Isaiah Jada from Snow College. It looks like they're turning up the heat on some of those guys.
Yeah, I think it's out of necessity at this point. You look at a lot of the offensive linemen that you targeted. Those guys have already made decisions. Now they're still recruiting them because, and I think rightly so. And they're hearing from some of these guys going, look, I want to see what it looks like after week 5 or 6 or 7. And I think that's something that's going to be important. And who knows, they might get in on a couple of these guys. But I think you've got to try to find, again, you start talking about the losses at the edge position. The losses on the offensive line could be even more devastating. And it's hard to be more devastating than having one guy. But you start talking about, Killian Zaire is a senior. Brendan Coffey's a senior. That's 2 junior college tackles that will play. Zaire's going to be your left tackle. So you got those 2 guys. You go, okay, Brandon Council is the guy that he's in his 7th year. He'll be gone. Nick Brahms, we're not sure if we'll even see this year, but obviously his eligibility is going to be up. He'll be done. Austin Troxel, you know where he's at as well. And Alex Jackson. So at a minimum, you're losing 6 offensive linemen. But you could also lose Will Irvin, who's a senior, Cam Stutz, local guy right there. It looks like he's going to play, and he may actually be in a starting role before it's over with. So you're going to have those 2 guys potentially, and then DeAndre Jones, if he plays and has a great year and decides, hey, I want to go ahead and go, you could potentially lose 9 offensive linemen.
Wow.
That's not counting anybody that decides, hey, I want to transfer and go somewhere else. I mean, it could be a complete rebuild except for a couple of guys. And you got to have players that are ready to go. And right now, the junior college ranks, I mean, obviously the transfer portal is going to be something that, Auburn is going to pursue in a big way on that offensive line. But the chances of getting 4 or 5 those guys that are ready to go out of the transfer portal are not very good because, we saw last year, Alabama, other schools, they're looking for those guys too. And so, it's going to be one of the most important things going on in recruiting for Auburn in the next 6 months is going to be what happens on the offensive line.
And with what we saw this weekend with Allen Green stepping away, I think if you follow the process, no one was shocked because he'd been looking around. And then, I think I don't know necessarily that it was a good fit with what happened over the last 3 years or so at Auburn, but with the budget, the way he handled it, with a lot of the coaches on campus not being pleased, and of course he hired Harsin. But with the with the president and the AD now that hired him being gone, does this up the ante on Harsin even more? But I mean, we know Harsin knows that there was almost a coup last year. But where does this leave Brian Harsin? Is there even more pressure on him now, or is this one of those things where it's with him it's water off a duck's back because he's already been through it this past May and this past off season, I should say, January, February. Before he was decided he would return.
Yeah, I think most coaches know you got to win, and that I don't think whether Allen Green's here or not, I don't think that changes anything. They got to go out and show improvement after having a 6-7 record a season ago. I think you got to go win games. You do that, and you'll be fine. If you don't, then there's going to be some issues, no matter if Allen Green had been here or not. So I don't think it changes the narrative any way at all. I think that's where it stands, and I think everybody knows the situation going into the season.
Yeah, I think they do, and I still think this defense is going to be sneaky good, like top 5 in the SEC. I really like if they stay healthy the way the group, especially the front seven, has come together. They need Papo healthy, of course, but I know he's a guy you and I have discussed on on our sister station. But Cam Riley, I'm excited to see him. I think he could be a breakout guy for Auburn. But I think that really, to me, the backbone of this team is going to be the defense, but it comes down to this. I know there's been a ton of conversation about the wide receiver room and stepping up, being more explosive, but I think you've seen the game evolve. It's all about the quarterback, and you have to be really good at the quarterback position. Your thoughts on naming T.J. Finley the starter? I think everybody saw it coming, but it's probably a situation, too, where he's going to be the starter, but he's going to have to come out and play well the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be. I think we're going to see Robbie Ashford on Saturday, and more than just in a situational thing. I think they're going to give him the offense and let him go see what he can do. But yeah, no, it's a quarterback game, but you got to have the other guys. The best example of that is last season Alabama. I mean, he's the same quarterback, but you take those wide receivers away, and all of a sudden it looks different.
Yes.
Those other guys have to be there. You got to find playmakers, and that's the thing for Auburn. No matter who the quarterback is, that guy can't do it on his own, and they've got to find playmakers at wide receiver. And hey, the most important thing for this team is they want to be able to run the football. Then you've got to be able to run the football against the better teams on your schedule. They couldn't run it against Texas A&M. They couldn't run it against Georgia. They couldn't run it against Alabama. And ultimately, that was the difference in them. Because, even the Georgia game, that's a game that they have some opportunities early on if they can cash in. And if you can run the football, then you give yourself a chance. Obviously, Alabama. Texas A&M was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. But everything goes on the passing game, and it's too hard to do that. And so I think Finley's improved. I think he's settled in the second year of the system, which is a big deal. But again, they got to find other guys to help out that position. It's been too much on the shoulders of the quarterback, not only the last 3 years, but the last 8 or 9 years. In 2017, they ran the ball and ran it really well, and you saw what happened. That was a team that, until Kerryon Johnson got hurt, may have been playing as well as anybody in the country. But all of a sudden, you take one piece off the puzzle and throw it all on the quarterback, and it changes. So to me, quarterback, yeah, it's important, but those other guys have to do some things. They've got to make plays for this offense to work.
And where is this recruiting? Does it really come down to going 4-1, 5-0? Because I think this is going to be the defining stretch to start the season at Jordan-Hare Stadium. If they can come out and win 4 or 5 of these, and beat either Penn State or LSU, is this where the recruiting class takes off?
Yeah, here's what I've been saying. I don't think it's a must that you win Penn State because of, we saw it last year. Penn State, they beat Auburn, and their season wasn't very good. So I don't know that it necessarily, but I do know this. If you lose that game, then it becomes a really big game. And because then you start talking about what's left on the schedule. I don't know that there's a certain number, but I do think the momentum, you got to have the momentum. You got to build some momentum. You got to show, hey, this team's a lot better. This team has taken some strides. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, I talked to James Smith the other night, and he goes, it's not really about, he said, it's just about what I see. And I think that's it for a lot of guys. You go out, you fight tooth and nail, you lose a close game, you go to Georgia, and you're 4-1, and even if you lose that game, you play Georgia toe-to-toe a little bit and compete. That may be enough for somebody. I don't know that there's an exact number, but I think for a lot of guys, it's just going to be, hey, what do my eyes tell me? And that's why it's going to be really important probably the first half of this season.
And I know I'm glad you brought up James Smith again and Quay Russaw. I know you saw them play. They're both outstanding talents, arguably the top 2 prospects or 2 of the top 3 in the state of Alabama. Brumbaugh has done a really good job with them. Where does Auburn stand?
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's in the picture. That's the thing. From talking to those guys, they're like, hey, and I talk to people close to them. They look, Auburn's definitely in the picture. I think it is. I think it does come down to what do they see for this team early in the year? How do they respond to adversity early in the year? All those things you're going to face as a football team. But Auburn's there. They're in the picture. They visited multiple times. Obviously, Alabama and Florida. I mean, Alabama and Georgia are there, but Florida's very much in that thing too. So, I mean, I think you see 6 teams, but I think it, Auburn and Florida are 2 teams that could really make this thing interesting depending on how their seasons go early in the year.
And I know they just officially relaunched it and just completely revamped it. But how is NIL at Auburn right now?
Yeah, I think it's getting better. It's just, it's a tough task when you're trying to compete with, the Texas A&Ms. Obviously, I mean, and people have to understand too. It's not just that. It's you're competing with Miami. You're competing with those people, even though they're not in your conference. Because NIL reaches everywhere and everything. And so Texas, there's kids that Auburn has recruited that Texas is recruiting. You got to compete with those people, and it's what I say. It's a component. I still don't think it's the be all end all, but I think you got to be competitive, and I think that's where Auburn is getting now is competitive, and then coaching staff, the program, all those things then can make a difference, and I think that's where they're getting to now.
And then with this recruiting class, you already mentioned that offensive line is going to be a definite priority and the edge spot. Who are some guys you're really focusing on? We know Rosaw and Smith are 2 that Auburn wants very badly, but I know for our listeners, who are a handful of guys that you do a great job of zeroing in on guys that the Auburn staff is prioritizing as far as to add to this class, either before, not in the next week because the season's starting Saturday, but I guess within maybe the next 4 weeks or so. Yeah,
you start looking at it, and obviously, you got some guys, can Auburn make another run at a guy like Bo Hughley?
Yes.
Offensive tackle over there in Georgia. I mean, we're talking about offensive linemen. That's a big deal. I think a guy like Adam Hopkins is definitely a player to watch. He's the Thomas County Central wide receiver in Thomasville, Georgia. A guy that a lot of people have crystal ball to Texas A&M. I think Auburn is very much in the picture for him. And we've already talked about this wide receiver group and what Ike Hilliard's done. I think that's a guy to watch for. I think when you start talking about positions of need, again, going back to the offensive line, a guy like DJ Chester is a guy that has blown up on the recruiting trail from Eagles Landing Christian Academy in McDonough, Georgia. Visited Auburn a few times, and they continue to make inroads for a guy like that. I think that's a few guys to watch. Obviously, this thing it changes a great deal from day to day, week to week, depending on who's committed. Auburn's still trying to make a push for Reuben Bain. I know he's a guy that Coach Rock is known for a long time, and is I think doing a great job with in terms of recruiting. Can they add him because he's a big time pass rusher? So there's a few guys there that definitely paying attention to.
No question, and we're definitely going to be monitoring them. We look forward to also featuring your new colleague, Christian Clemente, who does a great job with recruiting with Auburn Undercover. Certainly, I sound like he got treated like royalty over there in Chipley, man, over there in Florida.
Yeah. They took care of him. I was laughing. He had on his Chipley shirt Saturday after coming back, and he's like, "Hey, they tried to give me a bunch." I said, "No, I don't need a bunch of shirts." So I think for small school, that's still such a big deal, and it's a good thing to see people appreciate the work that people do and doing it the right way. And hey, it's a long trip down to Chipley, and so Christian and several other guys made the trip down, and they took care of them. So that's a pretty fun thing.
No question, and we'll continue to follow his coverage and yours as well for Inside the Auburn Tigers. 23 years now you've been on the beat, no doubt about it. And we look forward to seeing Auburn against Mercer on Saturday night inside Jordan-Hare Stadium and seeing this second-year group under Brian Harsin. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think they're going to be improved. I definitely didn't vote them 7th like so many people did in SEC Media Days. No, I don't think that at all. And I can tell you right now, it's already been recorded. It's already I've already said War Eagle. I said it. I'm definitely going to be rooting for him against Texas ATM because I am not a Jimbo fan at all. So definitely going to be rooting hard to see Auburn get a win against those guys and to see Auburn have a bounce back year because I think it's important for our state, important for Auburn to be good. And I think this coaching staff, this revamped staff, I'll give Carson credit, man. He's doing it his way. and he believes in it, and we'll see if it's going to work out. But looking forward to seeing the debut of the Auburn Tigers Saturday and seeing how this recruiting class continues to take shape. But, Jason, let everybody know how to follow you guys' work over at Auburn Undercover, where, again, you make road trips to Chipley. You guys get a lot of FaceTime with recruits and do a great job covering the Tigers.
Yeah, you can check us out, like I said. AUTigers.com will get you there. AuburnUndercover.com as well will get you there. Auburn247, and you can also follow me on Twitter at ITATJason.
Well, thanks, man. I know you're a busy guy. You're on this beat every day, but we appreciate you being a part of the Recruiting Blitz for the first time. We look forward to you continuing to be a part of it. But thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your morning.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it.
It's Jason Caldwell. We're going to go on our final break and wrap up this Monday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio with D Squared.
The Blitz has been called.
Are you in the market for a recreational vehicle? Do you want to get out and see more of this beautiful country? Well, imagine hearing the laughter of your little ones enjoying gooey s'mores by a cozy campfire and making lasting memories with your friends and family from the comfort of a new camper. We can make your dreams come true at Hall's RV. With over 15 years in the camping business, we know how to get our customers into the perfect camper. We have several models and floor plans here for you to choose from, both new and used. We're family owned and operated with fantastic deals and great service. Everyone wants to work with people they can trust, so come on down to Hall's RV and get the deal of a lifetime. We'll treat you right and get you on the road in the camper of your dreams. Visit us on Highway 431 in Albertville. Hall's RVs, where we sell fun. Or see us on the web at www.hallsrvsales.com.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Bailey Custom Boats. We knew our boats were special when we would stop at any outdoor store to stock up on supplies for a boat trip, only to come back out to the parking lot and see people standing on and around our boat and a confused sales rep telling them it's not for sale and they don't even have that type of boat. Fast forward a few years, and now you can buy your very own one-of-a-kind Bailey Custom Boat. We hand-cut our wood from cypress we pull from the river in Mississippi. There's a lifetime warranty on the bill, faster and more maneuverable like a ski boat, and better fuel mileage than any pontoon on the market. With 350 horsepower, a Bailey Custom Boat will go 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds. And our custom boats are Coast Guard approved for offshore and virtually unsinkable. We'll be showcasing our custom boats at different lakes over the next few weeks. Find out where at BaileyCustomBoats.com. On YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We're taking orders now for 2023 delivery from April to May. You gotta pay to play. BaileyCustomBoats.com.
Okay, Sarah, I'm dropping you at Emily's, and Josh, you're going to soccer, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, and by the way, when I pick you up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What? No!
Yep, me and my short shorts doing my daddy dance. Your friends will love it.
No!
Well, I might change my mind if you buckle your seatbelts.
Okay, we're buckling up.
See, all buckled.
Whatever it takes, keep them safe. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Welcome back. Winding down the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared on Blitz Sports Radio. You can give us a call in our final few minutes, 256-576-4977. And don't forget the Blitz later this afternoon from 2 to 4 with our cavalcade of stars, the Bandy Man, Bailey Lowry, and, of course, Captain Cool, John Abraham, and, of course, Smokey Mike Concho. I believe Gary Reedus is going to join them today. So one of the great athletes in North Alabama history, former major leaguer, going to join the Blitz. And they'll be talking a lot of college football, I'm sure, as well, due to the college football getting cranked up this past weekend and the full slate starting on Thursday and then going through Saturday, even Sunday. Don't forget this Labor Day weekend, Florida State and LSU in New Orleans. That is going to be a Sunday evening kickoff. So, we're really looking forward to that, no doubt about it. And we're going to continue to follow all the recruiting headlines this week. And, you never know. Recruiting info breaks, constantly. And, it's always changing. You never know when a kid is going to pop out and commit or decommit. So we're going to be following a lot of that the rest of this week, no doubt about it. And so we'll be monitoring some Alabama storylines, as they continue to fill their recruiting class, already at 21 commitments, the number one consensus class in the country. And that's even with missing on a guy like Peter Woods. And who would have thought? Thompson High School, Mark Freeman, what a great coach, three-time defending 7A state champions, but they're 0-2 with the gauntlet of a schedule they have playing the machine known as the Buford Wolves, who beat Mallard Creek out of North Carolina 56-7. Another very impressive day for Justice Haynes, what I think will be a five-star running back from Buford, who's committed to the University of Alabama. Buford is rolling right now, and Thompson got off to a really good start against Lipscomb Academy, coached by Trent Dilfer. Lipscomb Academy beating Thompson 24-14 after falling behind 14-0. And so, again, Thompson with a very tough beginning, but 7A Region 3, the region of death, that's going to start up this week. And so Thompson, I believe they've got to take on Vestavia Hills to try to start getting into the win column. And you got to believe the Thompson Warriors, they're too talented. Of course, you've got Tony Mitchell committed to Alabama. You've got Peter Woods committed to Clemson. They're too good. They're gonna turn this around. They're gonna get rolling. And so they've had a very difficult beginning of the schedule. But I think we all fully expect the Thompson Warriors to still be a huge factor in the state championship race in 7A. No doubt about that. They're just, Mark Freeman has built a machine over there. We call him Thompson University for a reason, and I think they're going to get it rolling. And they will be at Vestavia Hills, looks like in week 3 for them, for the Thompson Warriors. So they got to get into the win column. And we saw also, our 97.7 The Zone, ESPN 97.7 The Zone Team of the Week, the LaRon White-led Sparkman Senators. I'm sure we'll be talking to Coach White at some point because during the recruiting process locally here in, the Huntsville area, because he's done a great job. They are our Team of the Week this week. They are 2-0. They have won 77-9 over the Hazel Green Trojans on the road, and then they host Huffman. They win that game 42-0. So you got to give Sparkman a lot of credit for the start they are off to here in our community. Also, the Randolph Raiders, they've got some recruitable student athletes, including Nick Strong. Remember that name locally here. Outstanding running back, great receiver as well. Can split out, can be a de facto wide receiver. Is someone that I think is definitely capable of playing on the Division I level. He had 3 touchdowns rushing and 2 receiving on Friday night in their historic 46-33 win, first ever over Madison Academy. They also have an outstanding athlete at the quarterback position to the Raiders, Andrew Hunter. He's another kid I think can play small school football. 17 of 22, 328 yards, 3 TDs passing, also 6 rushes for 49 yards on the ground. Outstanding player. So there's some outstanding student athletes also here locally that we will be monitoring that's going to have a chance to play college football, and we may have some of them join us on the Blitz as well as their head coaches. So just be looking ahead to that. because, again, we want to give a voice to the high school coaches in our community with this show, some student athletes as well. And also, we had some outstanding basketball news. R.J. Johnson, outstanding player from Grissom High School. You know, he previewed his commitment announcement on Talking Ball. And then after our Recruiting Blitz show, shortly after it on Friday, he commits to the University of Alabama. We will try to effort to get R.J. Johnson and Jack Doss on the show to talk about that. R.J., 16 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists last year, and he will play his final season as a 4-year starter at Grissom before signing with Nate Oates in Alabama in November, and then taking his talent to the SEC. But another North Alabama young man and Madison County player that's going to be an SEC basketball player, and for Nate Oates at Alabama, following in the footsteps of John Petty, who had an outstanding career, all-time leading three-point shooter there. But it's been a great Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio with D Squared. Everybody enjoy the Blitz later today from 2 to 4. Gator Reedus is set to join the show. I'm Drew DeArmond. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Everybody have a great rest of your Monday.